And some people will tell you that it's like shards of glass. There's so much misinformation out there, and I could take a chunk of this and eat it. Oh my gosh. Alright, so let's get to it. We're going to make some diatomaceous earth mud first, and it's kind of like making dough or pour enough water in to make concrete to form it. And in this bucket here is nothing but diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth flour. And we're going to add a little bit of water. You really don't want much at all. Just kind of slosh it around here. Now this really soaks up. This really soaks up the water good. So you just got to keep pouring a little bit, just like making pizza. You're gonna all turn the crumbs, and even if you do get too much water in there, that's okay, because it'll dry. I think that's how I want it. Oh, the wife's gonna kill me. Alright, here we have, it's a little, let me make sure you can see that. It's a little lumpy. There, it's a little lumpy, so, but that's how you want it. Yeah, just like a cow patty, just like fresh out of a cow's butt. And mix it up real nice and good there. And then what I'll do is put it in the greenhouse here, because it's 130 to 140 degrees. And I bet by sometime tomorrow evening it'll be set up, and then we can shoot the video again and show you what it looks like. And we can start making our pieces. Start making our rocks, because DE rocks. That's what it should look like. Yeah. It's nice and flat. And lay it on a flat surface so it's nice and flat, and it just dries like a pancake. And then it'll be easy to break. Alright, that's that. We'll let it dry, and I'll be back. Okay, so the next step on making DE rocks is, after it is dried out, you basically break it up into little chunks or into little rocks. Now that crumbled on me, but kind of like cookie dough. And you can make it, this could dry out a little bit better. You can tell it's somewhat a little tan. You want it to look kind of white, but you get the idea. I'm just doing this for demonstrational purposes, but this is really going to work because it's going to continue to dry out. You're just going to break this into chunks like this. It can be really as big as you want. You don't want too small. That's a nice size. I'd say that's about maybe 1 inch by 1 inch. You can go smaller, you can go a little bit bigger. I would say that's probably a little bit too big, but it depends on how big. Sometimes I grow sunflowers, the stalks can be that big around. And I may place one of those and one of these on either side. And then when it rains, or I use a shower bucket where I water the sunflowers or the rest of the plants, it trickles over the DE, and the DE will absorb the water or the compost tea, and then, or it'll run off and the minerals just go right down into the soil. And that's awesome because your soil and your plants continue to get the silica and other beneficial minerals that are bound in the silica. So this is pretty much done here. And that's a little, I'd say it's about an inch thick, but I think if I had a 5-gallon bucket, which is what I normally use, it would be about 3/4 of an inch thick. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you got DE rocks or DE chunks to use. You can put that around the base of your plants, and that's the end product. That's what you want right there. Okay, now we're going to go on to putting it at the base of the plant, and you'll see how I put it around the base of the plant coming out and how I water it. Okay, here I have one of my squash plants, and you just basically, you probably can't see it from this angle, so I'm going to take the camera off so that we can get a good look. Here's our gorgeous plant, and our DE chunks, some of them, that when you put down, you can put one here, and you can put one over here on the other side. It doesn't matter if it's touching the stem, you can even put one over here. And why are we putting the chunks down at the base of the plant? Well, that's because when you go to water squash plants, excuse me here, when you go to water squash plants, the squash bugs, they like to, they hate the water. Here I'm going to water it right now. And you see how the water just goes right over the rocks. And they don't dissolve, only but a little bit. And all those minerals trickle on down into the soil and continue to feed the microbes, the macrobes, and continue to feed the plant, because the microbes will further break down the DE, the silica, and then the plant absorbs the silica, and plants love silica. That's why I use diatomaceous earth, and that's why I use azomite. Well, that's one of the reasons why I do it. And this is also great for, now you'll see bugs crawling on them because the DE is wet, and the DE is ineffective at killing insects when they're wet. But when they're dry, this is more of a deterrent for squash bugs. So I'm not saying that this is a panacea at all for squash bugs, but it has really worked for me this year, and I've been very happy with it. I've been very surprised with the outcome. Have I seen squash bugs? Yes, I have seen squash bugs, but very few. So it's going to take you being using your deterrent like this and being vigilant, because they will want to still come over and try to do their thing. Now, I've only seen about, I'd say, since I've been using it at the start of the growing season, which I got in, again, it's 2021, and I got in again late. I got in a month and a half, almost 2 months late, because our June, January, April, May was too cold. June was way too rainy and cold. But I got in kind of right in the middle of June, and That's a terrible time to get into the planting, and I'm in zone 5-6. But it's August 1st as of this recording, 2021, and this is the time that squash bugs are in full force. And by the fall, if you got pumpkins or you've got cucumbers or you got spaghetti squash, any type of squash, they're all over it. And by fall, you're like, you're pulling your hair out because there's so many squash bugs. So the DE in chunks, and you can also sprinkle it as a powder because you can get the vine borers. Still not a panacea, but it's just a deterrent. And I've seen 5, maybe 6 squash bugs, and I've pulled them off because they like to come out right when you water the base of the plant. You look for them, you be real vigilant on that, you look for them, and they start crawling out of the base. They love hanging around in there. I really don't know why. I guess maybe because it's cool and a little bit moist. And then they come out and they mate, and they hang on the fruit, and they, right up underneath the leaf, they put their cocoons. And we'll do a walk around, and we'll see if we have any cocoons. Eggs. I'm used to worms. We'll see if we have any eggs that are on the bottom of the leaves. That's where they just like to put the eggs that's out of the sun, and they're protected underneath the leaf. But like I said, it's not a panacea at all, but it seems to be working for me this year. I'm going to try it next year. And it's deterred them, and I've been very, very pleased. And the reason why I use diatomaceous earth is because of the silica. And humans, animals, plants, all life needs silica, and I write a lot about it. I'll have some links below. And I speak about diatomaceous earth in great detail on my website and in these 2 books. And this one, in the Worm Farming Revolution, why it's important for the worms and for the microbes. And in this book, why it's important for the soil, brown thumb, green thumb, why it's important for the soil. I go into a lot more detail, I guess, on some of the aspects of DE that I don't go in the other book. Some people will tell you that it's like shards of glass, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much misinformation out there, and I could take a chunk of this and eat it. It's odorless and it's tasteless. It's like, doesn't even taste like chalk. It's just, I don't know, it's nothing. It's like you would think it's like maybe sheetrock or something. But it is a mineral that's similar to azomite, but azomite is a solid piece of rock, silica, and diatomaceous earth can be a solid piece, but it's very porous, and that's what makes it wonderful as an absorbent, because it absorbs anything that comes into contact, any moisture, just absorbs it. That's why insects stay away from it, because it'll dehydrate them. It's not like shards of glass, because it will just dehydrate them, and they'll spend the rest of their pathetic life trying to rub that stuff off, and they'll grind themselves to a pulp, and then they'll dehydrate. But I need to make sure the camera's still running. Because of the form that it's in, nobody tells you this right here, but diatomaceous earth comes from plants. And that's what you learn in this book. And then there's another book called Silica Savvy by Tui Rose. That's another great book. That's strictly diatomaceous earth. But diatomaceous earth is mined from dried up ancient lake beds, and they are from diatoms, which are microbes, or algae, or plankton. It's just a plant. And plankton, algae was classified as plant-like animals, but now it's plant. So you're just getting minerals from plants. So you're feeding all kinds of different minerals that are in here, and azomite, back to a plant. So it was from a plant form back to a plant. Well, my phone cut out on me, so I have to pick up where I left off. But basically you're feeding a dead plant back to a plant. And that's what nature does. The leaves fall down from the tree, right? The leaves fall down from the tree, and the tree falls, and it's carbon, and it turns back into food. The plant, the microbes feed on the carbon, and they turn that back into plant food. You got all kinds of microbes that are doing all kinds of things, and they're feeding on each other, and the plant gets the benefit from that, and that's where the brown thumb comes in, and it helps you grow that green thumb. And so it just turns back into plant food, and that's nature recycling itself. And so, and this is what we get from it, and we're the beneficiaries of it. So, all right, without further ado, let's walk around and see if we can find squash bugs, and see if we can find little juveniles. Let's see if we can find some eggs. All right, off the mic goes. Hi, how are you? So I have this camera on the front camera, so we can look together. Now, I haven't done this yet this year just because I haven't really seen any squash bugs, so I haven't seen really the need to do it. What do we have here? No, that's just a little insect. Now, I don't see any, but if you guys see any in here, leave a comment below and let me know. And we're not going to just check this plant, we're going to check other plants as well. Usually when they lay their eggs, they generally like right around here. It's not so much up in here, although you will see them. You'll see them up here sometimes, but they're generally right down here because they crawl up the stem, and usually right in here somewhere. Not seeing any there. Not seeing any there. Who are you? That's just a tiny little bug. Not doing anything. Okay. So let's check out another plant. Sometimes, now, okay, you're saying, all right, yeah, Polly, but you're checking the fresh new plants you just grew that are still in a juvenile stage. So let's check out a plant we'll check out my oldest plant. We're going to check out my oldest plant here, which is, you can tell it's my oldest plant because I got a behemoth growing. Can you see that? That's a big one right there. All right, let's see. Oh, don't see any. Don't see any. Notice I have not edited anything. I haven't shut the camera off. And in all fairness, I want to totally be honest. It may not be a season for squash bugs. That is possible. And I write about that also in Brown Thumb, Green Thumb. See if we can get that on there. Because sometimes insects run in cycles, you know, like you hear the katydids right now going off like sirens. And maybe this just, for some reason, in my area, I won't say in every area, that it's not a year for squash bugs. But it seems like I always deal with some sort of squash bug every year. And I have seen them, like I said, I've seen them this year. And you can see that my plants have taken some bites, but the bugs will take a bite out of it and just move on. Here is a yellow squash. And we'll see if we got any here. Again, leave your comments if you see anything that I don't. Leave your comments below. And if there's one, if you see eggs and I didn't see it, well, then I'll come and I'll pick them off. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, what was that, 4 plants. Now we'll go to this one, which is my, you've seen one of my videos, that's my squashini plant, which is now, it's a vine, it's growing like a vine, right? It's about 6 feet long now. And I don't even know if we should check this thing for squash bugs, it's so healthy looking. But we'll do it anyway. And generally by now, I would have seen some eggs. But I don't see any. So this just might work. This just might be the trick that helps not kill them, but just deter them so they don't come and mate and start laying their eggs. It's just like, whoa, I don't want to have anything to do with this place. I'm out of here. And I did do it last year, but the problem with that was I started way too late. And when they were already set up, you know, you introduce it and it's like, hey, what's this? Oh, I don't think it's any harm to me, so I'll just stick around. They kind of were already established. So anyway, I just want you to know it's not a panacea, and I don't know what to expect for next year, but all I can say right now is that it's working for me, and I'm impressed with it so far. And you're still giving really great nutrition to the plants and to the soil, and ultimately to you too. So this is the pollination, and I'll see you next video. One thing I want to mention is that some of you may be wondering, how long do the DE rocks last? That's a great question, and it depends. If you water once a day or once every 2 days with just your handy shower bucket, like I was using. If you do that, depending on how much it rains, your DE rocks may last 2 weeks up to a month, maybe even longer. And I've had some DE rocks last about a month and a half. Matter of fact, I threw down some thick powder that has lasted me over a month. and it's just kind of like a solid sheet on there. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you want your soil to breathe very well. So in case you guys were wondering, the DE rocks last a very long time, so you don't have to replace it like, you know, every week or every time it rains you got to replace the rocks again, because they last, you know, 2 weeks to a month, even longer. So anyway, to answer that question, because I know I wondered that when I first started, so just to put that out there.